Born the 19th of October 1944. Died the 11th of September 1987, aged 42. Winston Hubert McIntosh, OM, the 19th of October 1944 to the 11th of September 1987, professionally known as Peter Tosh, was a Jamaican reggae musician. Along with Bob Marley and Bunny Wailer, he was one of the core members of the band The Wailers 1963-1976, after which he established himself as a successful solo artist and a promoter of Rastafari. He was murdered in 1987 during a home invasion. Early music and with the Wailers. Tosh was born in Westmoreland, the westernmost parish of Jamaica. He was abandoned by his parents and shuffled among relatives. When McIntosh was 15, his aunt died and he moved to Trenchtown in Kingston, Jamaica. He first learned guitar after watching a man in the country play a song that captivated him. He watched the man play the same song for half a day, memorizing everything his fingers were doing. He then picked up the guitar and played the song back to the man. The man then asked McIntosh who had taught him to play. McIntosh told him that he had. During the early 1960s, as an aspiring musician, Tosh went to vocal teacher Joe Higgs, who gave free music lessons to young people. Through his contact with Higgs, Tosh met Robert Nesta Marley, Bob Marley, and Neville O'Reilly Livingston, Bunny Wailer. He then changed his name to Peter Tosh and the trio started singing together in 1962. Higgs taught the trio to harmonize, and while developing their music, they would often play on the street corners of Trenchtown. In 1964 Tosh helped organize the band The Wailing Wailers, with Junior Braithwaite, a falsetto singer, and backup singers Beverly Kelso and Cherry Smith. Initially, Tosh was the only one in the group who could play musical instruments. According to Bunny Wailer, Tosh was critical to the band because he was a self-taught guitarist and keyboardist, and thus became an inspiration for the other band members to learn to play. The Wailing Wailers had a major ska hit with their first single, Simmer Down, and recorded several more successful singles before Braithwaite, Kelso and Smith left the band in late 1965. Marley spent much of 1966 in Delaware in the United States with his mother, Cedella née Malcolm Marley Booker, and for a brief time was working at a nearby Chrysler factory. He returned to Jamaica in early 1967 with a renewed interest in music and a new spirituality. Tosh and Bunny were already Rastafarians when Marley returned from the US, and the three became very involved with the Rastafari faith. Soon afterwards, they renamed the musical group The Wailers. Tosh would explain later that they chose the name Wailers because to wail means to mourn or to, as he put it, express one's feelings vocally. He also claims that he was the beginning of the group, and that it was he who first taught Bob Marley the guitar. Also, according to Bunny Wailer, the early Wailers learned to play instruments from Tosh. During the mid-1960s Tosh, along with Bob Marley and Bunny Wailer, were introduced to Danny Sims and Johnny Nash, who signed the three artists to an exclusive recording contract on Sims and Nash's Jad Records label as well as an exclusive publishing agreement through Sims' music publishing company, Cayman Music. Rejecting the up-tempo dance of ska, the band slowed their music to a rock-steady pace, and infused their lyrics with political and social messages inspired by their newfound faith. The Wailers composed several songs for the American-born singer Nash before teaming with producer Lee Scratch Perry to record some of the earliest well-known reggae songs, including Soul Rebel, Duppy Conqueror, and Small Axe. The collaboration had given birth to reggae music, and in 1970 bassist Aston Family Man Barrett and his brother, drummer Carlton Barrett, joined the group. They recorded the album The Best of the Wailers, which was produced by Leslie Kong and released in 1971. In 1972, Danny Sims assigned the balance of the Jad Records recording contract with the band to Chris Blackwell and Island Records Company and released their debut, Catch a Fire, in 1973, following it with Burnin' the same year. The Wailers had moved from many producers after 1970, and there were instances where producers would record rehearsal sessions that Tosh did and release them in England under the name Peter Touch. In 1973, Tosh was driving home with his girlfriend Yvonne when his car was hit by another car driving on the wrong side of the road. The accident killed Yvonne and severely fractured Tosh's skull. After Island Records president Chris Blackwell refused to issue his solo album in 1974, Tosh and Bunny Wailer left the Wailers, citing the unfair treatment they received from Blackwell, to whom Tosh often referred with a derogatory play on Blackwell's surname, Whitewurst. Tosh had written many of the Wailers' hit songs such as Get Up, Stand Up, 400 Years, and No Sympathy. Tosh began recording and released his solo debut, Legalize It, in 1976 with CBS Records Company and Treasure Isle. The title track soon became popular among endorsers of cannabis legalization, reggae music lovers and Rastafari all over the world, and was a favorite at Tosh's concerts. That was his last album from the Wailers, Island Records. In 2013, a book co-written by French scholar Dr. Jérémy Croubeau-Dagnini and American Lee Jaffe, his former associate, says Tosh was part of a smuggling operation that raised money to fund this album. Solo career. Tosh started to make his own albums with Rolling Stones Records and CBS Records. Equal Rights followed in 1977, featuring his recording of a song co-written with Marley, Get Up, Stand Up, and a cover of Stepping Razor that would also appear on the soundtrack to the film Rockers. Tosh organized a backing band, Word, Sound and Power, who were to accompany him on tour for the next few years, and many of whom performed on his albums of this period. In 1978, the Rolling Stones record label Rolling Stones Records contracted with Tosh, on which the album Bush Doctor was released, introducing Tosh to a larger audience. The album featured Rolling Stones frontmen Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, and the lead single, a cover version of the Temptations song, Don't Look Back, was performed as a duet with Jagger. During Bob Marley's Free One Love Peace concert of 1978, Tosh lit a marijuana spliff and lectured about legalizing cannabis, lambasting attending dignitaries Michael Manley and Edward Seaga for their failure to enact such legislation. Several months later he was apprehended by police as he left Skateland Dance Hall in Kingston and was beaten severely while in police custody. Mystic Man 1979 and Wanted Dead and Alive 1981 followed, both released on Rolling Stones Records. Tosh tried to gain some mainstream success while keeping his militant views, but was only moderately successful, especially when compared to Marley's achievements. In 1984, after the release of 1983's album Mama Africa, Tosh went into self-imposed exile, seeking the spiritual advice of traditional medicine men in Africa, and trying to free himself from recording agreements that distributed his records in South Africa. Tosh had been at odds for several years with his label, EMI, over a perceived lack of promotion for his music. Tosh also participated in the international opposition to South African apartheid by appearing at anti-apartheid concerts and by conveying his opinion in various songs like Apartheid, 1977, re-recorded 1987 Equal Rights, 1977 Fight On, 1979 and Not Gonna Give It Up, 1983. In 1987, Peter Tosh seemed to be having a career revival. He was awarded a Grammy Award for Best Reggae Performance in 1987 for No Nuclear War, his last record. Death. On the 11th of September 1987, just after Tosh had returned to his home in Jamaica, a three-man gang came to his house on motorcycles demanding money. Tosh replied that he did not have any with him, but the gang did not believe him. They stayed at his residence for several hours and tortured Tosh in an attempt to extort money from him. Over the hours, as various associates of Tosh arrived to visit him, they were also taken hostage by the gunmen. The gunmen became more and more frustrated, especially the chief thug, Dennis Lepo Laban, a man whom Tosh had previously befriended and tried to help find work after a long jail sentence. Tosh said he did not have any money in the house, after which Laban and the fellow gunmen began opening fire in a reckless manner. Tosh was shot twice in the head and killed. Herbalist Wilton, Doc Brown and disc jockey Jeff Free Eye Dixon also died as a result of wounds sustained during the robbery. Several others in the house were wounded, including Tosh's common-law wife Andrea Marlene Brown, Free Eye's wife Yvonne Joy, Tosh's drummer Carlton Santa Davis, and musician Michael Robinson. According to Police Commissioner Herman Ricketts, Dennis Lepo Laban surrendered and two other men were interrogated but not publicly named. Laban went on to plead innocent during his trial, telling the court he had been drinking with friends. The trial was held in a closed court due to the involvement of illegal firearms. Laban was ultimately found guilty by a jury of 8 women and 4 men and sentenced to death by hanging. His sentence was commuted in 1995 and Laban remains in jail. Another suspect was acquitted due to insufficient evidence. The other 2 gunmen were never identified by name.